Welcome to the Become Revolutionary show, where we talk to you about how to get over those hurdles to become revolutionary in life and business. We're your hosts, Noelle and Charlene, and today we'll be talking to Luis about how you go from getting kidnapped to turning into a well-known entrepreneur. What a show this is going to be.
What a show for sure. So Luis Camejo is one of the Biz brothers, and he spent the last 6 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world about how to create content that turns into profit. Throughout their journey, him and his brother, they discovered the systems and the principles on how your business can achieve frictionless sales. Awesome. That sounds mint. They explore framework strategies and distribution models in order to turn your content into profit. And over the last few years, they help companies like HubSpot, Orangetheory, RedBull, Chet Holmes International, JWB Property Management, the CSI Companies, Think Different Theory, University of North Florida, Smile Stylist, F45 Fitness, and so many more. You guys, it's all about finding the correct messaging and being consistent with your content structures, just as the beginning of the pursuit of your frictionless sales. And today we're going to be opening up to hear Luis's journey and the story behind the kidnapping. So fill us in. Your story is so wild, and how it's unfolded, I think, is just going to inspire and encourage so many people. Like, really, no, you don't have any excuses after this, friends. If you are not stepping into your calling, then this should motivate you today. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Charlene. Thank you so much for having me. Your platform is an honor. We've interacted quite a few times, but this is, the pinnacle. I made it. Very, very excited to share some story and hopefully, spark some inspiration and action into people. Action is the key word there, but
action is the key word there for sure. So fill us in. Where would you like to start? Let's go back to Venezuela, shall we?
Sure. So if you're listening, you might notice a little bit of an accent. That's definitely on purpose. I did not learn English the right way. But I'm originally from Venezuela. I moved here to the States in 2010 for college. But before my college life and entrepreneurial life, there was a whole different life. I grew up with the dream of being a professional soccer player. So when I was 4, I told my dad, I want to be a professional soccer player. I honestly had no idea what that meant, right? My dad was my rock and kind of guided me through that. But throughout the years, that was the dream, right? I love the sport. I still do. And every decision I made was to get to that level. I was fortunate enough that at 15, I got selected to go and play in Italy. So I lived there for a full year, landed in Italy, not knowing any Italian, just to go play soccer, living the life, living the dream.
Were you on your own? On your own?
I was on my own. So I remember landing in Rome, and I had a major freak out moment. I was in that plane and I was waiting for everybody to leave the plane. And all I had was my backpack, right? My suitcase. But I had this little paper dictionary, it's somewhere in here still. And it was from Spanish to Italian, Italian to Spanish. There's no apps or no phones, no iPhones like that I could help translate. And I remember trying to highlight these phrases because I knew zero Italian. And this came out of a tournament that I was there, and it's opportunity of a lifetime coming from a country that is not known for the sport. Venezuela is very known for baseball, but not known for soccer. And it's this is it. I have to grab this opportunity by the horns. But I remember sitting in that plane and I'm like, I want to turn around. I hope something goes wrong that they send me back. I was freaking out. And, Suarez comes by and she grabs me and she's like, hey, shows me the way. And I finally step out and there are 2 guys waiting for me, which were representatives from the team. And then we drove 4 hours to this little town. It was a 20,000 people town. And they were talking the entire way and I did not understand a word of it. And I just remember sitting there for 4 hours. I'm like, what's happening? That was probably one of the most scary moments of my life. But then as soon as I stepped on the field the next day, I felt like home, and then everything was worth it. So
Okay.
that alone, like we could just do a podcast just on that experience alone.
Exactly.
But like, fast forward a couple of years, I ended up going back to Venezuela. There was a paperwork issue. They denied my visa, so I had to go back home. I graduated from high school, and then I had the opportunity to go to Spain and play in Spain, in Barcelona, Spain, and that was one of the most amazing years of my life. Then that year I decided that professional soccer is not the thing that I want to do. I was right there.
Can I stop you for just 1 second? Like, okay, there's this paperwork issue and all of a sudden your dream is like over. Is that what that felt like?
It
like,
did.
Okay, you have
like
to go home.
Yeah. So
now Italy's out of the picture.
Yeah. So how it works is every professional team has like teams right under them in different cities that develop players to go to the major team, right? So imagine in MLS soccer, you have like the New York Red Bulls, right? And they have like these base teams all over the country that feed that main professional team, right? Kind of like a development academy. So that's what's happening when I was in Italy. And one of those teams, I was 16 at the time, decides that for the next year, they're going to give me a professional contract to go and play on a fourth division it was, and they're like 10th divisions. So I was going to get paid. I was going to start living the dream at 16, playing with like 25-year-olds, 27-year-olds. And that was the agreement. I go back home, and when we're processing the paperwork, what happened was the first year that I went there, the agent that took me under his wing and tried to place me in these teams, he was involved in a major corruption case in Italian soccer. And the guy disappeared out of the face of the earth, and I was left alone. And I didn't know, but the way that I came into the country was it was as a tourist, but I couldn't stay for a full year. So I stayed there for about 8 months illegally without knowing. So obviously, when I reapplied to go back in, there was a flag in the system, and they denied my visa because I was underage. There was no family. And all these things, right? So yeah, the dream was shot in my face.
That must have been so crushing for you.
Yeah, there were many, like that whole week, I remember just crying every day. Like this is what my shot was. Like, I'm way too old already, because in the world of soccer, 16, 17, 18, if you're already not at a very high level, it's really challenging to make it, right? The stat at the time was out of 300,000 Italians, only one would make professional soccer. And I was right there not being an Italian. So it felt like the world was crumbling, right? So anyways, we had to take a breather and get back up again, and new opportunities show up.
Well, let's talk about that breather, because that's not a quick bounce back from that. That is crushing. It's like, I'm too old. I missed my shot. Now what am I going to do? I've been putting everything towards this. Now what? So did you go through a down period? And like,
absolutely.
So like, how did you pull yourself out of it? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And, now I'm 32, so I've gone through quite a few of those moments. Definitely not just on the sports side, but on the entrepreneurial side as well. But I think one of the frameworks that I use, and I used it at the time without really realizing it, was, we got to slow down. We got to assess where we are. We gotta be like, okay, this situation happened. This is out of my control, 100%. There's nothing I can do really, except look forward and see what's next, right? So a lot of what I did at the time, again, not knowing, but it came kind of natural. And obviously my dad was there to support. I have coaches on my side to support. So very important, even if we're entrepreneurs, right? We need coaches by our side. We need people that really root for us. Really, our network it's really what's going to push us forward. And at the time, that network for me was on the sports side. Today is on the entrepreneurial side. But a lot of people were like, look, we've been in that position. These are stories of people, right, that maybe lived the same situation, and this is how they got out of it. So look for those stories, look for those people that maybe they were in the same situation. And that way, the story that we're putting in our heads will change, right? Because we'll see the solution. So one of those stories I remember was this player that was in the exact same situation. He was just a few years ahead of me, and he was in a different country. And then what happened was they ended up sending a lot of videos to different academies in different places. And then he was at 18, he was able to get that next chance, and then he made it. So I'm like, okay, I'm 16, you know, I'm still not old enough. This guy made it at 18. There's still people making it in their 20s, right? This is just a story that I was putting in my head. So I really grabbed onto that example, like that story, right? And as entrepreneurs, sometimes we fall into that pit, into like, oh man, nothing's working, right? There's a lot of friction in our business. Everything is breaking down, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's luckily a lot of people like you guys that are showing the way with podcasts and platforms like this, or content, or things that we can see, right? That we can be like, okay, they lived the exact same situation, right? I'm okay. Let's just keep going. So at the time, that's what was happening. And then an opportunity showed up to go to Spain, and that's at 18 I ended up going to Spain. And then that's a whole different story, but you know.
Well, I just want to jump in there with that, because I think this is a really good point. Noelle and I have gone through a few seasons like this already in our business as well. Yeah. Slow down, reassess, recognize what's in your control and what's out of control, and be open to seeing what's next. One thing that I've learned, and Noelle and I really stand strong with, is that concept of, if we're not open, we're going to miss seeing that opportunity. We need to take the blinders off. And if we're asked to slow down for some reason, like something pushes us in our business to slow down, it's not in alignment, it's not flowing as well as it normally should, then there's an opportunity that we need to see. There's a person that we need to meet. There's a conversation that needs to be had. There's sunshine on the other side of this fog, but sometimes you just need to sit in it. You know, like when you're driving, it's super foggy, you can't see just in front of your car, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm kind of worried. Like I live in an area where there's deer and elk crossing the road all the time. Like it's a serious issue if you can't see what's in front of you. But you have to trust that there's sunshine on the other side of that. It's temporary. It sucks. It's uncomfortable, but it will break. It will clear. And then things look amazing on the other side of it. But we're not meant to see what's on the other side. We have to sit in it for a minute. We have to be willing to be open and sit in it. So I celebrate you for being able to do that. I just really wanted to cement that so that it didn't go too fast. So people remember, slowing down and reassessing is really healthy and important at various stages in your growth. And lean into those times. Just breathe into it. As uncomfortable as it is, we're fast-paced entrepreneurs. We want things done yesterday. We want things to keep rolling forward, but you have to be willing to stop. So yeah.
Well, and what was coming up for me, and I was just thinking, like, what an important life lesson that you learned as such a young man too, right? To be like, okay, other people have gone through this. I'm going to, like, I'm sure that shifted things for your entire life. Like, okay, this crappy thing has happened to me. Like now what, you know, instead of like just staying down in the pit of despair or in that victim mentality. And so I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit, because the intro talked about kidnapping, and I have not yet heard that story. So I'm dying to know what that was all about.
I mean, this situation leads into that, right? Because it led to the Spanish opportunity. It was an amazing year, but that year I realized that maybe that was not the route I wanted to take. There was a lot of things in the process, in the day-to-day, that I was going through in Spain, even though I was getting the results, right? And we talk this, it's relatable in sports, it's relatable in business, right? We go through this day to day, and sometimes maybe we're not enjoying it. For me, it was a combination in that moment of overtraining. We had a coach that was not the right coach, right? And I didn't know, like, how can I actually shift this coach, right? It wasn't a possibility for me. In business, sometimes we invest in these coaches, right? Or we have these mentors that we choose, right? And sometimes we go through this path that we might not be enjoying. It's okay. We have the decision. We can make the decision of like, hey, cut ties and move forward, right? But at the time, it didn't feel that way. So the decision was, look, I'm 19. Again, I'm too old, right? I'm doing air quotations here. I'm done. And what that originated was a lot of friction with my dad, right? I mentioned that he was invested with me in this dream from when I was like 4. Right. So this was his day to day with me and my brother. And we didn't speak for six months after I came back home. And it was really tough. So what happened was I went into this moment of not knowing what my identity was. It was very tied down to like soccer. So I started going to college. College today is very different than here in the States. I got a job with RedBull. So I started working with them on the marketing department. I moved up very quickly in that. So I had the world in my hand at 19 and 20 because I was in every event. I was in every party. I was managing teams, right? I was in the market, in the forefront of marketing in my country at 20. But on the side, what's happening is this crazy a horrible political situation, right? There was a dictatorship going. Students are being chased. Universities are being taken by the military. Businesses are being expropriated. All this environment, right? While I was in this like search of new identities. So clearly there's a crash. And what happens is, as a young person that, you know, maybe you're in the top of the top of your work life, you know, you have college, you have friends, you have this, you have parties, right? I started going out. I started just living that life of like, I'm staying up till like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. because I can, right? Because it's my job. I'm doing air quotations because I had to do it. I'm getting paid for this.
Were you like jacked up on Red Bull also?
All the time. By the way, this is not sponsored by Red Bull, but I love the drink. I love the flavor. And everybody that I say this, they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to die. I'm like, I'm going to die very happy because I love Red Bull. But anyways, but yes, I was not crazy. I had a night where I had like 7 Red Bulls, and I don't recommend that to anybody. Like, do not do that. I do not sleep for like the next 24 hours.
That gives me heart palpitations just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you on 7 Red Bulls. Like, I almost want to see that. I just want to see that.
No.
What does that look like?
Yeah, I do not advise that to anyone. I was young and stupid, but one of those nights, right? I'm coming back. I'm still playing, right? Because at that time, I'm like, okay, this country is not the place I want to be for opportunities. I need to move either to Europe again or maybe chase an opportunity in the United States. Mm-hmm. So I was still going back and playing soccer for the objective of getting a full ride scholarship here in the States. But it was like this mix of things. And one night I decided to go out after practice. The neighborhood I live in is a closing neighborhood. So my parents were like, okay, stay here. I fight against that. I ended up going out to pick up some person outside in the city. As I'm picking them up, this car just like creeps behind us, almost crashed. The second I had a co-pilot, had a friend with me, I turn around, I'm like, hey, let's go. As soon as I turn around and I see the window, there's a gun pointing at my face. And that moment, slow down. Oh. The guys open the door. They grabbed us by our shirts and they drag us back into the same car. They take the car and they go. And there's something unfortunate. If you talk to a Venezuelan, there's going to be a story. Either they know somebody that was kidnapped or they themselves got kidnapped. And at the time, there's something called express kidnapping, and it's where they take you, they call either your relatives or people that know you, and they ask for a ransom, some money, and then they leave you on that same night. So it was like something very quick, but you hear all the stories, you hear the bad stories where people get killed by just phones, right? They try to grab their phones and they resist and they killed them. So it was a very, very volatile environment. And obviously in this moment, it was about 30 minutes that we were in the car with these individuals. And I remember thinking, this is it, right? Like, I don't know where am I going to go? Like my family is not a family of money, right? Middle class. So in my head, I'm like, whatever they ask, you hear they're asking millions of dollars for other people in the college that I went to. And some people couldn't pay it. Some people, and so everything is going through my head. And luckily enough, after what it seemed like 12 hours, they decided to drop us off and they take the car. Right. And they just left us in the street. And we're lucky that we're a couple of streets away from a house that we knew. And we ran to it, we knocked on it. And then that night, I remember after everything was settled, I remember this is it. I cannot stay in this environment. And again, another lesson for those entrepreneurs, like environment is key, whether that the relationships that you foster in that environment, how easy it is to maybe operate in that environment. And it was really challenging for me to operate in that environment over there because I didn't want a regular job. Like I didn't want a regular life. I wanted opportunities. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't going to be sitting down in a desk working for somebody else. I wanted to build something. I didn't know what it was. So that night I made the decision, I'm out. And my life completely flipped because I went from party mode, go out. I still worked with RedBull, but more responsible. I didn't stay till like late. I didn't drink. All this. I just continued my fitness journey to be able to get my soccer scholarship. And after a couple of years, I was able to get my D1. I ended up playing D1 soccer here in the States. And that's why I'm here. So I came in 2010. And then from there, that's like my second life. When it started. So that's the fast version.
That was a serious pivotal moment. Hey, like that night. Wow. What a 180 for you. And so, there's 2 years after that, like that just caught my attention. So you made a decision And then for 2 years, you stayed on the straight and narrow with your eyes focused on a target of like, I know I want something else. And so what was that like? Like,
you know how we talked about those moments that they just hit you in the face and you're like, okay, what do I do now? Well, that was one. So I made the decision, right? We're like, okay, I can't control this. I can control the environment. Let's move forward. What's what I want? I want to go to a place with opportunities. The United States seems to be a really amazing place and opportunities at the time, still is, right? I love this. This is my home now. But I started working towards it, right? So obviously to apply for these colleges is a time period, and you had to send videos, you had to send all this stuff. And at the time we were working with an agency that helps place you in these colleges, and I ended up getting a scholarship in West Texas A&M. No idea where this was, in the middle of nowhere, but it was a D2 school, and the person in the agency was like, that's a great school, you go to it. And I'm like, sounds good. It's the one offer that we got. Now, here's the second slap in the face. I'm still working with RedBull, right? And it's end of college year over there. So there's a bunch of parties going on. There's a bunch of events going on of, end of school year. Venezuelans, we like to party. So I ended up going to a friend's house to get ready for this party. And I was actually managing a team that was actually going to go in and deliver it. So, when everything is like fighting against you and you're like, I'm pushing through, like, this is the decision I made, and everybody's like, don't do it. And you're like, this is the thing that will do. Well, the universe has a wonderful way to tell you, don't do it. And for me, that night was when I was taking a shower, the glass door, it was like tempered glass. Somehow it exploded. I didn't touch it, nothing. It just exploded into a million pieces. And 2 of those pieces hit the top of my foot and cut the vein that goes on top of that foot. So I'm here in this bathroom, right? But like getting ready because I had the event. I just broke up with my girlfriend, so emotionally I wasn't there. And the universe puts this event in my life where I'm naked in the shower, running water, blood coming out of my foot, and all this craziness happening. And I'm like, what's going on? I remember slowing down in that moment, and I'm like, this is it. Like, I'm not going to be able to go play because it's on my left foot. I'm left-footed. I play soccer. What's going on? So anyways, there's a doctor in the house. He comes, like, they stitched the wound is about like 2 millimeters. They were very close to the tendon, didn't get the tendon. And then the next slap comes. And as I'm recovering, they told me there's going to be like a 2-week recovery. This is quick. The team I was playing with, they play in the finals. I go and I join and celebrate with them. And on one of those jumps, the vein comes apart again, and they need to like suture again and to get it. And then it gets infected. And then I spent 6 months after my operations of removing the infection without being able to walk. Another slap in the face when you're like, this is the opportunity that I need to go get. Yeah. So now I'm sitting in this couch, right? I'm like, I'm not playing pro. I lost my opportunity now I'm 20 at the time, right? So scholarships, for those that don't know, they can give it to you until 21. Probably really challenging now that a school is going to invest in a 20-year-old when they can invest in a 17-year-old, right? Rethinking my life completely. And I accept the fact that I'm going to stay in Venezuela. I get to walk again. I start practicing and moving. This whole episode happens with the government where they chase the students, and I make another decision again to be like, this is not the place I want to be. And we don't work with the agency anymore. What we did was we had sent 300 cold emails to every single coach in the United States for D1, D2, D3 with our video personalized. For weeks we were doing this, and I got 2 responses. My brother got 2 responses. And because of that, we are now here in the state building the life that we want. So again, I highly encourage, whenever you get those slaps, whenever you fall, slow down, reassess. What's the next action that you can take to get there and go execute? That's why I spent 2 years when I made that decision until when I ended up coming here, because there were many slaps in between those 2 years, but we just kept at it. So it was totally worth it.
And there's another, there's so many lessons in your story, Luis, but it's, in this case, all I'm thinking, like, loud and clear is coming across for me is like, everything else can be going against you, but if it's in your heart and you have that desire and you know that you want to be doing something, sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. And that's what you and Fonzie did. It's like, okay, this way is not working. So now what, right? What happens if if we take it into our own hands. And it may look like it's harder to a lot of people to do that, right? Instead of relying on other people. Charlene and I had an experience with a sales agency once, and it was we just realized like we were relying on someone else to do that for us when really we just had to do that work ourselves, and that's kind of just an entrepreneurial experience that we had together. But there's so many times in life and there's so many times in business where I think that it's like, okay, if we just strip away the chaos, if we just strip away like all of the noise and all the stuff that people are telling us to do, and we go after that like heart calling, we go after it ourselves, we will find success, or we will get an answer, or there will be, the next breadcrumb on the path. So that's what I kind of see with that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing. Yeah, so here we are, we're in the States. Yeah. What's going on now?
Yeah. So then I'm like, oh, wow. Like the college here looks exactly like the movies, like American Pie, same thing. And I'm like, so many distractions. What's going on? I'm this guy with an accent, right? So obviously my stay here was very tied to performing in the field. So soccer became back again in a priority, not to the professional level, but to perform. So I was pretty responsible during those years. I still was part of a fraternity. So I'm a founding father ATO for those listening. And if you want to send me a message. Awesome. But it was just not a culture shock because Venezuelans are very Americanized in what we consume, but it was definitely a different environment. But what really motivated me was opportunities. There was opportunities everywhere, and there was a lot of friction to go and chase them, right? And when you grow up in a country like Venezuela, initially like corruption is a big friction point, right? If you don't know the right people, if you don't have money to pay to skip the line, it's really challenging, and it's very sad because we have beautiful people and amazing people, but ultimately that's how things kind of work in countries like that, and hopefully it will change one day. But here was like, okay, well, if you actually work hard, it will happen. Like you will make it happen. And at the end of the day, it's like, what do I have control over? My actions, my own actions. And like you said, like you don't have to depend on anybody else. So through this college journey, I gave myself like those 4 years to be like, okay, my focus is soccer. And then I got to figure out like what to do next. Paperwork wise, I had to figure out like, how am I actually going to stay here? Mm-hmm. So the fastest route for an international student here in the States is work sponsorships. But again, I didn't really want to work for anybody. So I was just really lucky that I found my now wife that I have two little babies with my sophomore year, my second year of college. And we were dating, until the end. And after that, that was the logical decision actually came from her. I remember being sitting in a couch and talking about like, what's next? And I throw a joke. I'm like, you know what? I might just stay here legally. Right. And she just started bawling her eyes out. And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, do you enjoy being with me? Right. And we never like saw marriage as the next thing. We just really enjoyed the company together. Mm-hmm. We're not religious. I grew up in a Catholic household, but we're not very religious. Her family is not very religious. So that was marriage per religion was not an option. And she was like, you know what? You like being with me, right? I'm like, yeah. And then I like being with you. So what's the fastest way? Like marriage in this country is literally a paperwork. So we're okay. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, but I want a real proposal. So she got a real proposal, and we're happily married with two babies now. And she's like my North Star. She supports everything that I do. So I'm very, very lucky that I found her. And that allowed me to actually go chase my dreams. So again, another important lesson, right, inside of the business is like, who do you actually gonna hang out with? Like, who's your company? Who's your business partner? Who's your family? Who's the people that support you, right? Because if there's a lot of friction coming from that, it's really, 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 really hard to actually go and chase your dreams. So graduated college, and now we're like, now what? So Fonzie is in town now. Fonzie is my brother and business partner, and we decide to invest money that we didn't have in a credit card in an online course on how to do social media. And that's how everything started now. And it's been about 6 amazing years since we started the company, and here we are.
Wow. So tell us about it. Tell us about Content for Profit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now we're co-hosts of a show called Content is Profit. We're part of the HubSpot podcast network. And that started really in 2020. But before that, when we started the business, we had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea what we wanted to do. And the first thing that we did was, our roommate at the time, we were living in a 7-bedroom house with 5 roommates, 2 dogs, a cat, and it was pretty intense. So one of the roommates,
Lots of content came from that, I'm sure.
yeah, fun memories came out of that place.
Yeah.
Well, one very funny one of there's a big game, football game here in Florida, called the Florida Georgia, and it's massive college game, and a lot of people from Gainesville, these 2 universities kind of collide in Jacksonville. And we had a big house with 2 storages, and people were like, we're obviously friends of all the athletic teams. And they're like, hey, after the game, after the tailgate, can we come over? And we're like, sure. So, the aftermath of that party, we woke up to a living room full of things, but also the head of the mascots of the universities, of our 2 universities, were in the floor in our living room. So that's how intense that house was, which was pretty awesome. But it gets all pretty quickly. So one of those roommates comes in, and he has a machine with him, like this massive box, and we're like, dude, Steve, what's that? And he's like, this is a vinyl sticker cutter. And we're like, oh, sweet. And he's like, we're about to sell stickers, baby. We're gonna be millionaires. And we're like, sign us up. So we ended up joining forces with our roommate, and we started creating these vinyl stickers. We go door to door in surf shops, companies, and be like, hey, we can do these for you. They're like, how much? $15. And they're like, what, for a sticker? And the vinyl stickers style, that's what they go for. But we realized very quickly that we needed to sell massive volumes of this. And we ended up in Orlando in a conference. We ended up purchasing a screen printing machine, because we're like, well, if people don't want the stickers, they might want t-shirts. So let's create the stickers. So we put this massive, 5,000-pound machine in the garage of the Florida house. And if you've ever been in a garage in Florida with 90-degree weather and 80% humidity, it's pretty miserable. So that's when we started the business. And at the time I was managing fitness studios. And I will come at 8 at night, and my brother and Steve will be setting up like all the screens to be able to screen print during the night, because during the day it was super hot. So we will screen print from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And this is why I highlight your people, like the people that you join this journey with, like whether that's your wife, your girlfriend, your brother, your family, like business partner, they have to be in on this 100%. Katie my wife did not stop supporting like my desire. And she was like, hey, if you need to do this from 9 to 3 a.m., go do it. Right. And that gave me just a ton of freedom. So I highly encourage, look who's around you. And if you're chasing a dream like that, whatever dream it is, if they're supporting you 100%, if they might not be fully supportive, maybe that's a conversation that you might want to have. Not an easy one, right? But I was very lucky that everybody around us, and my parents weren't here, so like they couldn't, whatever they say, they were like, whatever. But we ended up doing this, and we decided that the process is not really, we're not enjoying it. It's very painful at night. We don't want to do this anymore. But we started building a bunch of relationships with small businesses. And parallel to the screen printing, we decided to do an e-com brand called 6 Foot Southern that lasted about a year. But we learned a ton. It was a total flop, but we learned how to market online. We learned all the systems. We learned technology. And through that knowledge, we rolled it out into a social media marketing agency. So through all the local relationships that I had in town, because of my fitness studio, it was an upscale fitness studio where I met all the business owners, and the relationships that we built while selling these t-shirts, we were able to immediately pivot and be like, start advising and start providing this service. And that's when the online side of BizBros and the content side of BizBros starts to happen. Now people start asking us, hey, Luis, like this is the pain that we have. We cannot create content. Like it's really challenging, right? Like our managers need to create content, but they don't have the time, right? They need to be training the team. And they saw really content as like this thing that lives on the side, that is like, if we have time, we get to it, which in fact, it has to be the complete opposite. Like content and your marketing and your message and putting your message out there and being present has to be number one, because it's directly tied down to your sales process, right? We mentioned at the beginning, how do you connect content into profit? How do we make that frictionless sale? By producing and creating and doing this. So we started developing over the last years our own frameworks on creation. And that's really how we were able to create a system and a process around it, where eventually in 2020, when COVID happened, we lost about 80% of our business. Another slap in the face. Here we go. So there's many of those. And again, we had to slow down, reassess, and be like, okay, what's next? And we decided to launch the show. So the show really changed everything. We produce 3 episodes a week live. We're about 300 plus episodes at the moment. And initially we started getting our content out when we realized that we didn't know enough, that we started running out of topics. We started bringing people to interview, and we saw that there was a direct relation with that person that comes in and opportunities. Yeah. So we started being very cognizant of that. We started developing processes around that. And right now it has become our number one driver of business and relationships and opportunities. And that's what we do now. We create these systems for people. We provide fractional content teams. We manage a couple dozen team members like within BIZBROS and within other businesses as well. So it's been a super fun journey. That's the fast version. So I think we covered like legit like 20 years of story in the last like 20 minutes.
So good though. It's so good because you're not stopped. Diversity didn't stop you. You took it. Your perspective is so refreshing. This is what I freaking love about entrepreneurship, because it's so life-giving to be around other people, like you're saying, environment, be around other people who have this kind of mentality. You're like, okay, you're down. What do you need to look at? Let's go. There's another way forward. Let's just figure it out. But you're willing to put in the work. You're willing to put in the time. You're willing to back yourself up and bet on you because you know you have something of value to give to the world. You know you can help. And your fractional content is just awesome. Noelle and I were just like, this guy, his heart, his branding, just everything about you is just so awesome. So we want people to be able to connect with you. Can you, let's drop a website or something. How can people connect with you?
Sure. People can go either to bizbros.co. They're gonna find like general info on like, oh, it's the show. If they listen to podcasts, which I'm assuming they are, they can search Content is Profit. We're pretty much in every single platform. You can Google Content is Profit, will show up. You can go to contentisprofit.com. There's a bunch of episodes in there if you want to backtrack. But if you really want to connect personally, I'm mainly on Instagram. So at Luis D. Camejo. You can also contact at BizBros Co. It's us. There's no VAs behind those DMs. So, a little patient because we love to connect. We love to talk to the people that follow us. I don't think we're big enough for people to like, swamp our DMs. So take advantage of that.
You say that now, then you're going to get swamped.
There's a few messages I need to respond still, but it's okay.
I love that.
So we end every show with rapid fire questions, and I'm ready to give you some. Are you ready to answer?
As ready as I will be. Let's do it. Let's go.
Okay. What's your favorite drink?
RedBull, 100%.
Still RedBull.
My wife gave up. She was like, okay, you know what? Now for Father's Day, here's your little your box of Red Bulls. I gave up.
I love it. If you were a DJ, what would your DJ name be?
Oh man. That was a hard one. DJ Mass Life, and Mass Life is this whole different project that we have going on. So I'll leave it for the next episode.
For the next
one?
one?
Awesome. What's the most impressive thing you know how to do?
Most impressive thing I know what to do. Man, recently a lot of people are telling me that my secret power is legit building processes. So this is something that just came out of execution on my own business. And I was so in it that I have no reference whatsoever. So apparently it's that. And there's something coming up with one of our amazing partners, Amanda Holmes, that we're about to work on a project together for the next 6 months that it will cement that. So I'm very excited, honored to be a part of that. But boring, but
No, not boring. Efficient. That excites me. I'm operations on our end. So I'm like, yes.
Because on the regular life, I'm a dad, but maybe raising 2 kids, does that count? I don't know. Mountain biking. I love video games, but I suck at video games. So, this is what I enjoy doing. So there you go.
Awesome. What's the silliest invention you've ever heard of?
Silliest invention. Man.
That's a good one, Noah.
These are hard. I don't know. I'm looking around my office because we have silly stuff all over, but I honestly probably something in the kitchen that we don't need. You have always have like that thing that you buy and you never use. So again, probably for me, all of them, because I don't cook. So
all kitchen utensils.
All of them.
Love to eat. Don't want to make it.
Just give me a fork. I'm good. Funny story. The other day I was making eggs, right? And for the kids, and I know how to do eggs. But there's we have this spatula, spatula, is that how you say?
Yeah.
That folds, and it's pain in the that's right. So I'm like doing this, and like you have the egg at the bottom, and like I'm trying to get it off, and I'm like, this is not working. And if I grab like a metal thing, like it will scratch the thing. So I go ahead and I grab one of the plastic forks of Luca, and I just like use it, and I'm like, this works wonders. So from that day, I've been using the plastic fork of Luca, and Katie walks behind me one day and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I am cooking eggs with Luca's fork. And I'm like, yeah, it works great. I'm like, we have tools for that. So that's the example.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the silliest invention is a folding spatula.
A flexible spatula.
And your best invention is the fork spatula.
The plastic fork.
Okay. Perfect vacation spot.
Oh man. Somewhere all-inclusive resort at the beach, 100%. I love Cancun. I love that side of town. We've been blessed with beaches where I live. So like we just take the Jeep and go there. So some all-inclusive has to be an option because I don't want to worry about anything. Cruises, 100%.
I'm coming with you.
Okay.
Let's go, Noel.
Let's do it.
Okay, couple more. What is the ugliest vegetable?
Ugliest vegetable. Is radish a vegetable?
Yeah, it's a vegetable.
Yeah.
Oh, is that yeah. Okay. That clearly I don't cook. Great.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh man. So much. But lately I've been working with a person that's very special to me, and my first one-on-one coach, really. It's been identifying those moments where we feel anxious, stressful, like angry. Like this week, for example, to me, it has been a really intense week because my wife, Katie, she's out of town. She's in Italy for a week, which she 100% deserves.
Yeah.
But I'm home with the two kids. One is the 3-year-old, and then the other one is a 2-month-old. So it's been pretty intense. So it's recognizing the feeling of it, right? Like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling excited? Like, what is that feeling that we're doing? Take it in and just place it. Like maybe grab it. What I do is like I picture like a little ball, little box, and I place it outside. And then all of a sudden this feeling of not being able to control it goes away because you see it, you're able to spot it, and then you're in a better position to make a decision and be around this. So a very active example on that is with the two kids. I'm like, okay, what can I do about it? So I call my mother-in-law emergency because I mean, the production of this podcast is an example because I wasn't aware that was on Monday. And I was aware, but I didn't have it in front of me. And when I realized I had the kids, I'm like, oh boy. So she's able to help me on Thursday and Friday. And we packed all the execution for Thursday and Friday.
Awesome. That's perfect. You know, I had a moment like that, and it was a really effective moment for me. It was last night. I had an incredibly busy day yesterday, and we were doing recordings, we were doing different stuff. And so and then I have 3 kids also. So I was putting everybody else before myself, and everybody else was fed and everybody else was being put to bed. My husband's super supportive, and he was helping out in every way. And we had an interview that went late into the night. And so, you know, I got on my pajamas like 9:30, 10 o'clock, made myself a salad, poured myself a glass of wine, went upstairs. As I go to sit down and watch a show and eat my supper at 10 o'clock at night, I knocked the wine glass off and it spilled all over broke the glass, spilled all over my pajamas. And I was just like, honestly, the message in my head was like, why is my life so hard? Right? Like I went from like 0 to 60 because I broke this glass at 10 o'clock at night, and all I wanted to do was sit down. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I did exactly what you're saying. And that's why I wanted to share this story today, because I did exactly what you're saying. I was like, get some paper towel. This is not the end of the world. What happened was, you spilt a glass and broke it. This has nothing to do with your life. Nothing.
Yeah.
Life is not hard. You're actually extremely blessed. Your husband took care of the kids, put them to bed. You know, you're sitting here with a beautiful salad. All you have to do is go downstairs, pour another glass of wine, and, 10 minutes, it was 10 minutes of my life, but I caught myself thinking the most negative thoughts. And I thought, wow, I wonder how many other times we all do that to ourselves, right? When something doesn't go as planned. And that's all it is. It's just outside of your plan, and it can throw you for a loop, but it doesn't mean that your life is upside down. It means that situation is a little bit upside down, but or your wine glass is upside down. So
I'm broken.
My last question for you is, what is your guilty pleasure? Maybe it's Red Bull.
so many. I am so fat right now because of all of that. So I'm sweet tooth 100%. So Oreos with milk.
Yes.
So I cannot buy them because I will devour the massive one. I don't know if you guys have these in Canada, but like Krispy Kremes, they're these.
Yeah.
So good. Nutella. You stop. Yeah. So anyways, so here's one of the things I'm working on. I had this identity in the past, which was professional soccer player, right? Which every decision I made was because that in mind. So right now, one of the friction points, what I'm struggling with is my personal health. Like, how do we get a little bit healthier? How do we all this, right? So these guilty pleasures feed that monster. So now I'm shifting my mindset because that's where I'm at my moment, to a top performing CEO. So what does that top performing CEO does? We have to make decisions. As long as we're conscious about we're making those decisions. So those guilty pleasures, they come and go, but there they are.
So good. I'm on a similar path right now. I hear you. Yeah. Who do I need to be? I'm to be in this position in my life, what are the things that I need to be doing in order to be there? Because it's not going to be like binge watching a show. Not that I'm a big show person, but you know what I mean? Like, what is it for you? Exactly. So it's been an honor, a blessing, so much fun as always. Every time we get on, we laugh so much. I just adore you so much. We wish you so much success in everything that you're doing. No doubt you'll go far. I can't wait to see where this next adventure takes you. Looking forward to connecting to hear more about what we've been seeding already in this episode. And just remember, guys, we're stronger together. We go further, faster. Look at your environment. Evaluate those relationships around you. Give yourself permission to lean into the pause and be open to what's next, so you don't trip over and miss an opportunity that's really valuable, or a conversation that's going to open the next door. We wish you much success, everyone. Thank you again, Louise, for coming. Have a great day, guys. See you next week.